So like Diane, I'm a very colorful person. So I'm going to be all over the place like Olivia. This is not easy coming up here. So I'm going to put this over here, page 1, 2, 3, and then we're going to jump all over the place. Okay, I know most of you know me. My name is Kathy. I thank you, Diane, for allowing me to share this. It's funny because when she reached out to us gals and she said, you know, if any of you would like to share, the Lord just pinged me. And I'm like, oh, gosh, Lord, no. But he said, yeah. So when I told Diane, I was like, really? She really wants me to do this? Because I didn't think she was going to tell me okay. Because she knows where I am all over the place. So I'm going to start out with, the Lord blessed me with a godly husband. His name is Paul. We celebrated our our 35th anniversary in November. We have 2 adult children, Christina and a son, Eric. Both are married to wonderful, loving spouses, David and Jennifer. Now, Christina and David has blessed us with 2 grandchildren. Caleb, he's AKA Buddy. He's not Caleb to me. And my little Avriana, AKA Cheeky Boom. Boom. Now, my husband and I, in 2013, I retired. Our plans were for him to take a year before he retired. So I retired in June, and in August he got in a work injury. And it ended up that it caused him to retire, and for the recovery it took like 4 years for him to recover and going through workers' comp, also for it finally to settle. So it finally settled in 2018. The Lord blessed us with many, many adventures. We were able to go and do a bucket list of camp hosting in Carpinteria. We had some good times. On Saturday, December 14th, 36 days ago, the Lord transitioned me into a new season of life, and that's mourning. My husband went home to the Lord. This Saturday was a normal Saturday. There was nothing to prepare me or even him probably that something was going to change. Paul and I were excited to take Cheeky Boom Boom to that evening to a recital of our church family. While I was putting my little Cheeky Boom in the car, Paul was closing up the house, and then he had a massive heart attack. He never regained consciousness. To say the least, I have been in shock. Excuse me. How can it be? It's surreal. We are both retired. We have plans. We had a bucket list. It's really true when they say, you know, when people go through things and they say, I'm going to wake up from this bad dream. You know, you really go through that. You know, you're like, this is so real. I can't believe this. When the incident happened, I called 911, my children, then I called my church family. I needed immediate prayer for Paul. And I asked just the Lord, hear our prayers. My son and daughter and their spouses were immediately by my side at the hospital. with the addition of my church family. My church family dropped everything. They have continued to be by my side. My church family is my Aaron and her. In Exodus 17:12, but Moses' hands became heavy, so they took a stone and put it under him, and he sat on it. And Aaron and Hur supported his hands, one on one side and the other on the other side, and his hands were steady until the going down of the sun. My church family placed me on that solid rock, which is Jesus. They continue to pray for me. Prayers, I can't even begin to tell you how prayer is so powerful. It carries you through. You feel it. You know it. His presence is there. And right now, to tell you all the truth, I'm at a standstill. Sometimes I can barely breathe or motivate myself to do anything or go anywhere. But God, enraptured by God, enraptured by Jesus is where I'm at right now, because he is just wrapping his loving arms around me. In Psalm 73:26, it says, my health may fail and my spirit may grow weak, but God remains the strength of my heart. He is mine forever. Ephesians 2:4, but God, who is rich in mercy, because of his great love with which he loved us. Prior to going to Carpinteria, Paul and I were so totally blessed because I had facilitated a women's group. He facilitated a men's group. Pastor Joe had plans for my honey. And we had that opportunity to go to Carp, and it was for 6 months the first year. And I was like, we had gone alongside Pastor Joe and Diane to start this new fellowship, and I just felt so guilty. And we both felt like, we're going to have to call them and tell them that we're not going to be available, that we're going to be out by the beach suffering. So I called Diane, and she was just so gracious. And she just said, you know what, Kathy, is this what the Lord has for you? Go, And they set us free in the sense that we went and we enjoyed ourselves without guilt of leaving our church family behind, or our church duties, and not so much duties, but we both had we have servants' hearts, and so, but they freely let us go, and they will never know how much that meant to us. Prior to leaving, I mentioned that we were doing I facilitated a group. Our study was on the names of God. And remember, I had retired, so I had joined the gym, and I was doing water aerobics. And I had met this gal in water aerobics, and her and her daughter, and they shared with me that her husband was ill, and he had cancer, and that, he was really, really bad. So then I started facilitating this group, and Diane had given me the name of the gal of who was going to open up her home. And so when I called her, Gwen, she goes, Kathy, because I was calling her up to say, hi, I'm Kathy. I'm going to facilitate the group, and I'd like to come to your house and pray. Check out the house, you know what I mean? Make sure it's safe for the girls. So anyway, she goes, Kathy, she goes, don't you remember me? I'm Gwen, Gwen. And then we had been in study years and years and years ago. So anyway, she continues to say and share with me that just that last year her husband had gone home to the Lord. So she was opening her home. It was a blessing. And then we had our first meeting, and there's another gal in the group who had just lost her husband 3 years prior to that. And so we had our first year anniversary at church, and as I was serving pizza, I ran into the gal from water aerobics. And I asked her, how's your husband doing? She said, he went home to the Lord. So I shared with her, you know what? We have this group, and there's 2 gals in the group that are widows, and you guys may be able to minister to each other. You should come and join. She said, okay. Long story short, I ended up having 5 ladies that were widows in my group. And I remember one day I was driving to study, and I said, Lord, are you preparing me for something? And I even went into the group and I said, ladies, I am sorry to the widows. I am sorry, but I truly have to share this, that I just pray that the Lord's not preparing me for what you have gone through or what you're going through. So this night, when I was talking to Pastor Joe, on his birthday, after the recital, he came and joined us at the hospital. And he walked us through the procedure of what they do with the coroner and all that, whatever. And I was looking at him, and I said, Pastor Joe, it's your birthday. That's the kind of pastor we have. So, in the season of mourning, the Lord has taught me so much. He's taught me there is a time to weep, a time to laugh, and a time to mourn, and a time to dance. And part of the most difficult time for me right now is like going to Bible study where, the whole church family goes, because of being with, I was always with my husband. We were like cookies and cream. We were like peanut and butter. We were like, just always together. So it's real hard. But what's really hard is that I know, like when you were a little person, a little kid, and you got hurt and you saw mommy, you wanted to run to mommy, because regardless of what you did or what happened or whatever, she would always love you and she would always embrace you and she would always accept you. That's what my church family is for me. So when I go to study or when I go to church and I see the faces of the men that loved my husband, you can read it on their faces. There's been ladies in here that have cried and cried with me and cried tears, hurt with me. And I am still receiving dinner ministry. I'll be receiving dinner ministry till the end of January. I feel guilty, but the Lord told me, you know what? He says, don't take away their blessing. Don't take away their blessing. So these ladies, they come and they bring me dinner still, and they just bless me with good food, good food. And I'm so thankful for that. And they come and they bring me little gifts, and the love that has just been poured out to me is unmeasurable, and is what's really getting me through this. That one day I went to church on Sunday, and I did pretty good. I got out of the car, I got through the gate, I saw a couple of the men, hug. Okay, you're doing good. And then I get up to the gate and I see 2 of the gals at the table, and I felt like a kid, when you go, you cry, just like this, and I'm just crying, and they console me. And a lot of people don't know what to tell you when you go through that. And all I do is I tell them, you know what? All you have to say is, I love you, I'm praying for you, and I'm here for you. If a woman is grounded in the Word, they know that the Lord will take care of them. They know the scriptures that He will comfort me, that He will be there, that He's my Abba Father, that He's my provider, He's my husband, He's everything to me right now. So when those ladies say, I love you, I'm praying for you, I'm here, that's all I need to hear. And just a hug. and dinner ministry. So one of the days, like I was sharing, it was a Sunday. I walked in that gate. I was crying, and then I had to give something to Diane. And Diane saw me crying, and she hugs me. She whispers in my ear. She says, "You know what, Kathy?" She goes, "It's okay to mourn. It's okay to cry. It's okay." She says, she says, society nowadays, they kind of bypass the mourning, and you need to. And then later on, she shared with me that she was reading a devotion and that it pointed out a few things about mourning, and I asked her later on to send it to me, and she did. So I'm just going to share just a few of the highlights of what I got from it. And the first one is to face reality. God has final control over all of our lives. All of us will face that inescapable time. There's none of us that are going to be here. If you guys know somebody here on earth that's lived here forever, introduce me to them. But we're all going to see Jesus one day face to face. So you have to put that in perspective when you're in this season, because you know what? It's surreal. It's like, you can't believe it. You can't just comprehend it. You just can't touch it. You can't hold it. You can't. And you just sit there and you just think, like, how did that happen? But the Lord tells us that our days are numbered. So make the most of all the time you have with your loved ones while you do have them. Like I said, it was a normal day. It was, the end of the year was here. It was like 14 days before the end of the year. Who would have known that I would not have my honey by my side in 2020? It's like, what? Grief, and number 2 is grieve fully. Don't cut the process. Express your sadness. Let the tears flow. Talk about your loved one. Don't hurry through the days. Andrew would, before my honey had gone home to the Lord, we had decorated Christmas, and I had told Paul that I had left my footstool, at the church and stuff like that. And he goes, "Oh, no worries." He goes, "I'll call Andrew, and Andrew will check it out, and he'll put it away for me." And I said, "Okay." So anyways, after Andrew and Debbie came over one day and stuff like that, I said, "Hey, Andrew," I said, did Paul ever call you about that step stool, and did he?" And he looked at me and goes, "I forgot." I said, "Well, I am going to tell Paul when I see him that you didn't do it." But it's good because my friends allow me to talk about my husband. And it's so important because he was a wonderful, wonderful man. Wonderful man. Plan thoughtfully is number 3. It's okay to have a memorial of remembrance for the whole family. And it's funny because I was talking to my son, and we were talking about my husband's office. We were talking about pictures. We were talking about, and then I was telling him, well, maybe in his office, we'll put his picture in the middle, and then we'll put his favorite pictures he loved around him, stuff like that. And then I looked at him, and I go, "Do you think it would be like a shrine or something? Do you think that would be bad?" He goes, "No." He goes, "I don't think so." But when Diane, that day when she shared with me, she shared, it's okay to have a memorial in your home to remind you of that person, of who he was and what he brought into your hearts and your family, So that just comforted me. And that's just another reason why it's so important to be sensitive to the Holy Spirit, because the Lord may be telling you to say something to somebody or to communicate with somebody that they need to hear that so bad, to comfort their heart or to help them in the decision making that they're making. It's so important. And so I'm so thankful for Diane and sharing that with me. I'm so thankful that I get texts, praying for you, and I've gotten so many texts at the times on my hard days. Now my days are good days or bad days. That's my family communication with my daughter and my son. "How's your day today?" It's a bad day. How's your day today? It's better, it's okay. But we have our good days and we have our bad days. Number 4 is communicate clearly. And this is for your loved ones. I'm so thankful that time the Lord gave my husband and I during those years after retirement, even though he was injured. And he was injured, so we sat a lot and watched TV and movies and all that, whatever. We had a lot of talks. I told him one time, I go, you're so lucky we like each other. Because I was his nurse. And we were able to talk, and we talked about death. In fact, I'll never forget, I'll have to share this. Because of this study and because of these women that were all, widows, I thought I'd prepare my husband, and I told him, babe, now, if I go first, because usually the good go first. If I go first, because I know he wouldn't be able to live on his own, he'd be so lonely without me. I said, if I go first, I want you to find somebody to love. I want you to allow somebody to love. He goes, oh, no. He goes, I'm not getting married again. I looked at him. I go, wait a minute. What does that mean? You don't like being married? Like, what's the problem? And he said really lovingly, he goes, no. He goes, that's not it. He says, I just couldn't love. Like I love you, I couldn't love anybody else. So I told him, I says, but you need to. You do need to. I said, because you know what? I says, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? By yourself with the house. What are you going to do? He says, well, I got the grandkids. And I said, they're going to grow up. And what are you going to do? You can't be with them all the time. You need to have companionship. And I'm telling you right now that if I go first, it's okay to move on. It's okay to get married again. It's okay. It really is. He says to me, you know what? He says, you know why you're telling me this? I said, no. And he goes, because if I go first, you don't want to feel guilty. So we had so many talks. We had talks about what kind of burial we wanted. Do you want cremation? What do you want? And it was so important, like right after he passed away, they contact you and they ask you if you want to donate body parts. He shared with me, I'm going out with what I came in with, okay? So he goes, so don't let nobody take anything from me. But it was so comforting to know, talk to your family. Because then when the time comes, you can have so much guilt and mixed emotions about different things and what would they want, or do you feel guilty doing this or whatever. And so communicate with your family of what their wishes would be. It helps so much. So with that, but God, he had different plans for the both of us. One, my husband to see glory face to face, and for me, it's to tarry on. I'm like, what, Lord? You want me to tarry on? So I looked up tarry on in the Bible dictionary, and it says to stay, to abide, to continue, to lodge. And lodge means just to stay there and continue on. Many of you know, we did the study with Priscilla Schreier. A lot of you know that Tony Evans, we do a lot of his studies. Very good teachers, very good teachers. A lot of you know that Tony Evans, his wife Lois, went home to be with Jesus as well, the 31st of December. So I was watching a portion of the services for Lois Evans, and her son, Jonathan Evans, had got up and he spoke. And what was interesting enough, though, is that he had spoke in April. And everybody knew that his mom was ill and that they were fighting this. They had women walking around, praying around the hospital, walking around their home, praying. And he was saying, the victory is the Lord's, and the Lord is going to show a miracle. The Lord is going to heal her, and he is going to show everybody who he is. Because we've got prayer warriors praying, and this is what's going to happen. So on her services, on her memorial, he got up and he spoke. And he was sharing about his talk with Jesus about why God? Why? My family serves you. Our children serve you. My mother was a very big part of the growing of the church. And so you could have shown yourself who you are, God, through this. So I'm going to play a little bit portion of the memorial of what he shared, because it spoke volumes to me. And then after he speaks, then I'm going to play a song. And the song is Victory Belongs to Jesus. Because whatever we go through, God is victorious. We're just pilgrims here passing by, and I think that I shared with Jade, I said, it's like, and Reuben, that it makes heaven that much more captivating. It makes it more real. It makes it more, I know it's there, but when you have somebody so dear to you you're like, you know what, it's attainable, if that makes any sense. It's just there. It's just like, whoa, like, what is he seeing, Because all he left us here was his skeleton. That's all it was. His spirit is gone. He's in heaven with Jesus.